Hey, welcome. Thank you for joining us for Get Inspired and Live in Your Power. I'm super excited to have an amazing guest, Tim Peakman. Thank you, Tim, for joining us today.
Hey, Wally, how are you doing?
I am doing great. It's really great to see you again. Tim and I
Thanks for having
met
me.
in Austin, Texas a few months ago. I'm going to go ahead and jump into his bio. Tim helps experts package what they know into online programs so that they can live the life that they want. And I just want to give you a little heads up. Tim is a product of his own lifestyle. He basically teaches what he was able to do for himself. So excited to be able to share that with all of you. So his platform of choice is Kajabi, and that's actually the platform I use too for my online courses. So that's how we got to meet. And his main focus is providing the technical strategy for solopreneurs, which is what I am too. So perfect to convert their followers into customers. Tim is a serial entrepreneur, having generated over 7 figures online and built 3 online businesses across multiple marketplaces. He has experience freelancing with everything from physical products, digital courses, memberships, coaching, launching programs using webinars, email marketing, and live events. So basically, Tim, you are like the one-stop shop for anything online digital courses, right?
Wow, that sounds a lot when you say it like that. Yeah.
It is. It's quite a mouthful, but it's amazing. And it's all within the same, like all of these different pieces are necessary when you're building and promoting an online course. So yeah,
Sure.
it's great to have. I feel like I need to hire you as after reading all of that. I also want to share a little bit more about your background, Tim, before we get started. Tim's background is 16 years in the British military. And where do you live, Tim? Are you
So I live in the UK, a
in the
place called
UK?
Lincoln. Lincoln.
Lincoln?
Not many people know where it is. It's like 2 hours north of London. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And so you're actually my first international guest. So
Oh,
excited to have
amazing.
that.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, as you can imagine, in that 16 years in the British military, Tim was able to really hone those skills of leadership, training, creating systems and processes, and strategic thinking, willingness to understand the bigger picture and the ultimate aim. I'm always really grateful to be in the presence and actually learn from people who are in the military because of the discipline that is really necessary and just that out of the box thinking. And it's like a coupling of being disciplined and doing things that you're told, but then also being able to think on your feet when you're in a different
Sure.
situation. So I can just totally imagine that you have an amazing set of skills that you bring to the table when you work with your clients.
Thank you
Anyway,
very much.
yeah, I think it's just time for us to dive in and find out more about you and what you
Sure.
offer and what our listeners can learn from you today.
Absolutely. Looking forward to
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us. And I know you had mentioned that life for you has been a collection of defining moments. There have been several different defining moments throughout your life. And I know this podcast, Get Inspired and Live in Your Power, it's all about those defining moments.
Yeah.
Typically, for my guests here on the podcast, there was a defining moment, like a moment of inspiration, and they took action immediately. For you, I have, as we've been talking, I found that there have been several defining moments, and it's been more rather than just like, this bolt of lightning, spiritual inspiration. It has been more of like a feeling inside of you that you just
Yeah.
knew, that it was time to do something different. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
And I know where I was when it happened.
Yeah, exactly. Why don't you tell us about some of those? Kind of take us through your journey of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, sure. So just sort of put it into context, sport has always been my first love, and I'd studied sport. I love playing sport. And I joined the British military, actually the Royal Air Force, as a physical training instructor. So I was like leading, testing, and sort of recruiting as well. So that's what got me into the active lifestyle of the British military. Served all over the world, worked in lots of different jobs. I loved my military career, and it, like as you say, gave me a lot of skills that's applicable to the entrepreneurial journey. But I really remember my defining moment, as you put it. The British military were, trying to, encourage people to buy a house to try and get settled. And I actually did buy a house, and it was the week that I got my house keys. I had the phone call from my desk officer moving me to the other side of the country. And I know that the UK is not that big, but it was 2.5 hours away from my home, which meant I had to come home on weekends and serve away during the week. It was a minor thing, but it actually made me think about, maybe I should try and look at something to have a bit more governance and control over the rest of my life. If I was going to stay in the military, that would have been fine. But I always had this itch to do something else, to do my own thing. And yeah, that was the sort of defining moment. And it wasn't long after that I started my first online business.
Wow, that's awesome. Like I mentioned, a lot of people will receive that, divine inspiration and they know it's time to take action. And so then they start looking for something out here, to start doing. But this was, and I know our listeners can all pinpoint a time where this happened to them as well.
Yeah.
Someone from the outside, a situation from the outside kind of came in and helped you to see this is not actually taking me exactly where I want to go. I know I can think of specific defining moments. I got fired one time.
Oh.
That was a defining moment for me. So, sometimes things happen outside of our control that help us realize we need to make some changes so that we have a little more control. Is that
Absolutely?
Where you would be?
And usually, typically at the time, you think it's a bad thing. Like, oh, you got fired. Like, oh my God, it's amazing. But you attribute what it is at the time, if it's good or bad or indifferent. But actually looking back years later, you're like, that's the best thing that happened to me, because it then led on to X, Y, and Z. So yeah, I always like the phrase, good thing, bad thing, who knows? Like if something happens to you, just ask yourself, is this going to be a good thing or a bad thing? Who knows until you play it out.
Right, exactly. And I know in that moment, you were thinking more about taking a little bit more control of your life. And, the moving around was kind of getting to you to the point where you realized you wanted to be able to spend more time with family and friends. And you shared some of these things with me. And why don't you tell us a little bit about that journey from that defining moment because it wasn't immediate for you.
No.
To where you got to the point where you had that control. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So quite quickly after that moment, I was online Googling how to make money online. I'm sure some of your listeners have done it before, Googling how to make money online, looking at YouTube videos and everything. And I knew a few people that were selling physical products on Amazon. 2/3 of all sales on Amazon come from small business owners. And I didn't really appreciate that at the time. That's how Amazon was growing so big. And now this was back in 13, 14. So I looked into that model, and my North Star has always been how do I make money from a laptop? The remote working was my goal. Amazon was like the vehicle to achieve my goal. I didn't really fall in love with Amazon, but I thought, right, let's give that a try. So yeah, physical products business model. That was my first online business, the private label, shipping in from China, selling in Canada, US, and all across Europe. And I had my own range of drinking accessories, like bottle openers, ice ball molds, and whiskey stones, stuff like that. So, and I really loved it at the time. It was great. And I was making some good money and being able to travel all over the world.
Cool. Again, our listeners, if you have Googled what to do online, I know I attended one time a seminar, and it was all people that sold physical products online. My books are the only physical product that I sell online.
Yep.
But this seminar that I attended, everybody sold a physical product online. And as I was talking to them, a lot of it was the same story. It was like they were either moms, needing to make extra money, but they needed to work from home or, whatever, trying to get out of a 9-to-5 job and come back home, had that laptop lifestyle, like you were saying.
Yep.
And that was just the first thing that came. Some of the people that I talked to, the first product that they sold didn't really work, or had their stuff on Shopify or Amazon or whatever, and that didn't really work out. And I know you shared with me with Amazon, one of the reasons why you moved away from that was because you felt like you didn't have the control that you were looking for. Do you want to share about that?
Yeah. So, I mean, the customers that you generate, they're Amazon's customers. You never know who they are or their email address. Amazon frequently changes the rules of the platform, so you have to pivot. So yeah, it quickly became apparent that hang on, I still don't have my own business. I have a business on the Amazon platform, and you're basically you're helping to grow Amazon, and they obviously take their big cuts and everything. And yeah, it wasn't long before we actually realized that the Amazon advertising platform was growing faster than the Amazon marketplace platform. So me and a couple of other sellers, we started off our own Amazon advertising agency. So we had our own customers. We were helping them with their campaigns. This was pay-per-click advertising just solely based on the Amazon platform.
You took the problems that you were seeing in Amazon and
Yeah.
actually created a business to help other people.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. And I know when I met you, that was one of the things that I caught from you was just that desire to serve. It just all boils down to you just want to help people have an easier experience.
Sure. And it's typically the problems that I've, experienced and I've tried to work out and found a solution to then help others. You may be able to survive, but you can't really thrive on the Amazon platform without advertising. So not many people like spreadsheets and maths, and it's just all numbers. Like we designed our own tool so we could actually help people with that. And this is where I got introduced to Kajabi because I built that whole business using the Kajabi platform.
Right. And that kind of, again, with working with those other two partners, that sort of you knew within yourself there was another defining moment that
Yeah.
three directors going in three different directions.
Yeah. And I had that itch. There was like always another level of, I want my own business, wanted that little bit more freedom and flexibility to implement things how I wanted and how I saw the strategy. So that's why I started my personal brand, and that's where we are today.
Awesome. And we're going to talk about that in just a moment. I want to go back to that defining moment in the military when you knew you wanted to take more control and looking for that laptop lifestyle. Like you mentioned, you took action immediately, looking up digital products, whatever, a way to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't make that transition to owning your own business. You've already shared, a little bit of that journey with the Amazon, and then, creating the system with the two partners and all of that. Talk about, because most of the guests that we've had on this show, they made the decision, they stopped, doing what they were doing, and they moved forward immediately. And of course, there was a time before they were actually living in their power, but it feels different for you. It felt like there was more of, I don't know, you didn't quit the military immediately. Share with us about that journey, because it's a little different than most people that I've had on the show.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things in there. One of them was because I couldn't. You can't just leave the military. You have to apply to leave. And the typical application for a person in my role was 1 year. So if I wanted to leave as soon as I could, I would have had to apply a year out, and then I could actually leave. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to serve my full 16 years. But that actually gave me like just over a 3-year sort of window to plan my exit. So I sold physical products. I was doing evenings and weekends, building my own business alongside my career. And then the whole plan was to transition that exit. So build up some revenue alongside my current salary and then sort of step across. I know a lot of people, like, they go cold turkey and just like quit if they can. I would advise against that. If you could possibly do something alongside your current salary, one's just to get experience and knowledge and understanding of that particular business model, but two is to get that security of revenue coming in the door. A lot of these things take time. You can't really accelerate that for your best wills and intentions. So the more time you can give it to grow, whatever business model it is, the better. I mean, some people go cold turkey and are a success, but I do see a lot of people operating from fear if they do that, because it is just financial decision making, not what's best for the company or the business or yourself. It's like you just need to make money. You
mentioned fear, and as you're talking, because I've worked with a lot of clients who have been in that situation where they want to leave, their full-time employment or whatever to do something, that feels more purposeful. And I almost feel like they do that. They go cold turkey to create the fear, to create that motivation of, I gotta do it.
Yep.
It's like, I don't have any other choice. And that is very stressful. It can work. I've seen people, that have made that work. What you're suggesting seems like a much easier, more peaceful transition where you're still making money at your full-time job, or in your case, your career in the military, and then developing and building your business so that when it's time to leave, you've got that. And I think, as I'm looking back over some of my clients who we've talked about this, that would be the way that they would really want to do it. I think most people would really love to do that. In fact, I get a lot of people that give an excuse of, I have to stay at my job until I have the money that I can actually leave my job, and then, I can build something of purpose. But to me, that feels really inauthentic too. It's like, that's fear-based too. I want to just keep working until I have like my nest egg built up, so that if my purpose-filled business doesn't succeed, then I'm still going to be okay. But for you, it was an actual plan, and going back to that military training, the strategies, and, everything that you've learned. So talk to our listeners and to me as a mentor for these people about that plan, because I don't think it takes a special person, but I definitely think it takes some special skills to be able to set that plan in motion, to, commit to the nights and weekends, whatever it is that's necessary, so that in that time frame that you have set, that you're able to walk away.
Yeah. And I guess this all comes down to, if you have the choice, like you could be fired and then you have to do this. And I see a lot of people, the choice is taken out of their hands, and they have to make something work, and they do. Inevitably, that sort of, holding your feet to the fire, people are a lot more motivated when they have to make money. But no, I looked at it quite objectively, really. I thought, right, how much do I need to make? Let's like boil it down to the finances, the bare bones. How much are your expenses? And I ask people this. I ask some of my coaching clients this, like, what do you need to make? And they're like, oh, I want to make 6 figures, or, I want $1 million. But you're like, how did you arrive at that figure? So what are your monthly expenses? And they're like, I don't know. So then if you really drill down into what are your outgoings, what are your current incomings, and then what else could you sort of build on the side to offset the current incomes? So like if you could take like a 5-day week down to a 4-day week and then work on your business 1 day a week, that might be an option if your employer would allow that. But really think about, how much do I need? And scrutinize some of your outgoings. If you're spending so much money on Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, just really think about what is the priority for you at this time. And if you can, try and make it easier for you to achieve that goal sooner by really sort of stripping everything back. And look, the hardest times of any business, not just an online business, is the start. Online business is great because there's not that much in terms of money up front if you're just opening up a website rather than a brick and mortar. So it does help you in that respect, but you've still got to get money through the door. So just really think about what are your goals and what are your finance goals, and just sit down and work it out with a pencil and paper.
I love that. I love numbers, and I love lists. I love systems, I love all that kind of stuff. But one of the things I've noticed is that I have a hard time seeing things myself that, you were mentioning like Netflix, Disney Plus, all of those things. I have a friend who is amazing at systems. And if I ever am really stuck and I'm not really sure, it's like, I can't figure this thing out, I always call her in, and she's really good at ripping everything out and I'm like, are you serious? Like, you think I can do without that? And she's like, well, how many times have you used it in the last year? I don't know, like maybe 1 or 2.
Exactly.
Okay, you can do without it. It is great sometimes to have somebody else take a look at that. So
absolutely,
like you mentioning to your clients, and they're like, I don't know.
Yeah. And it's a good question to have, and it's a good exercise to go through. And it does take that whole look at each one individually. Do I need this? When was the last time you used this? Just a little example, like we went from 2 cars down to 1 car because we weren't using the second car. We rented a room in our house because we could do that. We had a spare room that we're like, well, we've had 2 visitors over the last 12 months. Let's rent it out. And so we have a live-in lodger, a tenant in our house. But that enables us to sort of offset the books.
All part of that plan. And I want to kind of transition into what you do for people, because you shared with me a 5-step system.
Yeah.
And as I'm looking at it, this is super simple, and it just goes right along with what you're saying. When you're creating that plan for yourself, that exit strategy for yourself, having those specific steps, same thing. Once you have made that decision that you're going to implement, do it immediately. And these are the 5 steps. This is a 5-step system that
Yeah.
you can follow. So do you want to share that
Sure.
5-step system?
Yeah, and this sort of came about really. I didn't say, oh, this is number one, two, three, four, five. A really good exercise is to sort of just sit down at a coffee table and just have post-it notes and just sort of write out what you do, and then try and group those into sort of areas of your business. And you'll soon find you can bucket what you do in your business if you already have an online business or you're building one. And this came up from the last 2 businesses that I grew.
Ignite your inner spark and start each day inspired and empowered with my daily GPS process. I'm Wileen Benson. Daily GPS is the best morning meditation and inspired vision technique that has you co-creating your life with your creator. Inspired shortcuts help you focus on the most important tasks to accomplish your goals faster, unleash your true potential, and transform your life into one that will give you ultimate success and fulfillment. Do it now. Visit WileenBenson.com to download your free daily GPS starter kit and start living in your power today.
The first one was design. So there's so many ways to make money online. And I would really encourage people to sit down and think about what business model that they want to implement. Like I just mentioned, a few like physical products, agency services. I'm in the digital products and knowledge commerce space now. But the first one is designs. Don't just launch. A lot of people say, just launch, the net will appear, all that sort of stuff. I mean, that will hold your feet to the fire, but sometimes you might not get good results. So be really clear on the design element of how you're going to make money, what shape of the business it is. And I think we're both sort of solopreneurs right now. I'm really keen on sort of micro business owners, one-person businesses, and leveraging systems and process. So I spend a lot of time in the design stage before I even launch this personal brand. Then audience. So you can't really do much without an audience. So how are you going to build an audience? How are you going to get out there? How are you going to get your products and services out there to the world? Now, this is probably the biggest thing I see that new business owners, online business owners struggle with is exposure. They may have the best product or service in the world, but no one knows about them. So how are you going to grow an audience of loyal fans or subscribers or customers? The third one is sales. If you can't put an offer in front of somebody, you're not making any money. It's a hobby. It's not a business. So really study how you're going to, or what products and services, first of all, you're going to sell, and how you're going to make money. Because if you boil everything down to one thing in business, it's sales. So then take a step back. How are you going to make those sales? What offers are you going to put out there? And again, you can't do that unless you have an audience of people. And then delivery. You have to deliver your services, your products. How are you going to deliver that? Is it going to be a coaching one-on-one group? Is it going to be a course, a membership? Is it going to be implementation services? So have a think about what lights you up, what you're good at, and how you can get people results. And then improvement. So I'm all about continuous improvement, looking and reviewing what you've done. Is it working? If it's not working, why are you still doing it? I think everything you do, especially in online business, has to have an aim. So if you're just like being a busy fool, you need to ask yourself, why am I working away this so hard? And take a step back and look at those 5 steps and just think, how can I continually improve what I'm doing? So yeah, that's what I've used in the sort of past couple of businesses. And that's really what I use my file structure in that as well. So I have my business file structure has all those in, because that's everything I do. And that's how I deliver my products and help my customers.
I love that. I love that idea of just sitting I'm looking over here to the right of my screen because I have a whiteboard with a whole bunch of yellow stickies on it.
Sure.
And I did exactly that same thing.
Love post-it
I
notes.
had like all these different things. It's like, how does this all fit together? So yeah. I love that. These 5 steps, super simple. And yes, I can attest, anybody that's starting a business or restarting a business, redirecting a business, whatever, these are the things that you want to do. And if you take that time in the beginning with the design stage, I think that does take a lot of the fear out of it. We talked about just launch. And I've heard that too. It's like, don't think about it too much, just do it and you'll figure it out. And yes, that you will, like you said, hold your feet to the fire. But this feels like a lot more peaceful journey. And, you can allow yourself the time to just get that, figured out and follow through with the plan. I think there's a lot of our listeners who resonate with that. And so I'm really grateful that you're here and have shared that there's a way to do that. And you're a living example of that it does work.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm going to give you a little bit of time to think about this next part. So I know you do have a free workshop that you've offered to people. So I'm going to tell people about that. And while I'm doing that, I want to just give you a little heads up. I want to have you give just a last piece of advice to our listeners. Anybody who is maybe thinking of starting a business, whether that is leaving a career and, becoming an entrepreneur, or maybe you have a business and you're feeling that there's a defining moment, you're feeling like there's something new that needs to happen. Last piece of advice for our listeners who are in that situation where they're either starting or redirecting a business, what would be a piece of advice, out the gate for them? So while you're thinking about that, I just want to share how to get in touch with Tim, because I know he would love to connect with you if you are a solopreneur and you're needing help with your business. He has this free offer that you just go to his website, timpeakman.com. It's TIMPEAKMAN.com and /workshop. And that will give you that free workshop. And this, he shared with me, is if he were to lose everything overnight and completely had to start over, because the hardest part is the start. And the longer that you can stay in and gather momentum, the easier it gets. But that workshop is to really help if you're starting. Is that right, Tim? Am I
Exactly. Yeah.
That? Is there anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, so I've really tried to simplify everything, and my term sort of stupidly simplify. What can you simplify it? Can you put it on a napkin? And this really is. I've heard it before. Business is simple. All you have to do is grow an audience and then sell them what they want. It sounds really simple, but it is true. But implementing that is sometimes the challenge. So the first thing, growing an audience, and then finding something that they actually want. You could grow an audience, but then try and sell the wrong thing. You might not have an audience, but you've got this, really good product that you can't sell to anyone. So my workshop really touches on those two. But then even before that, it is the choose element. So it's understanding like what you are good at and who you can serve. Really, it's choosing what your superpower is, and if it's monetizable, because a lot of people are good at things, but there's not much demand for that. So I talk about ikigai quite a bit in that, and it's the Japanese way of being. I won't spoil it, but it's not just like I'm good at this and it can make money. It's like what the world needs as well. So, I mean, there are many reasons for me finding my passion in what I'm doing, but some of them was, for example, Amazon is physical products. Part of me thought like the world has enough physical products. I want to go into digital products. So it's really finding your niche and finding what you are good at. And you do that by application and learning.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, I know I'm going to go and request that workshop because that sounds
amazing.
Really interesting to me. All right. So just real quick, more ways to find Tim. He has a YouTube channel that he posts on every week, right?
Sure.
And we'll have all the information on in the show notes. So just reach out on his website, timpeakman.com, for that free workshop, and find him on YouTube. And there is a contact page on his website if you'd like to talk to Tim individually.
The handle is very simple. It's at Tim Peakman on YouTube.
Okay, perfect. All right, that's awesome. Okay, so last question. What advice would you give as someone in starting over or redirecting?
Sure. And this is quite an easy one for me because I speak to a lot of business owners, startups, entrepreneurs, individuals, and their biggest challenge is quite common. And I've touched on it a few times today. It's getting in front of people. So if someone has a great idea for a startup or a great idea for business, something they want to do on their own, like my question would be, how are you going to generate leads? How are you going to get in front of your ideal customer? So asking people that really gets them thinking, okay, And this is choice. You can choose what business model you want to start with. Like, there are so many ways to make money online these days. You don't have to go into one of these, but identifying the right one that sits right for you, then how are you going to generate leads? So my platform of choice is YouTube, and that's my primary focus is to grow my YouTube channel, to increase my exposure, and then grow an audience, and then generate leads from that, and then position my products and services. So there are podcasts, people getting the word out there, like their products and services. There are blogs, people write blogs. If you don't like being in front of camera, if audio is your thing, or if writing is your thing, there are ways of designing that business model. So how are you getting in front of your ideal clients? How are you going to generate those leads is probably the biggest question I would ask anyone thinking of starting a business. If you don't have that ability to be able to grow an audience online, then you won't have an online business. It's that simple, really.
Awesome. I 100% agree. Because like you said, you can have the greatest product and you can be really passionate about it. But if you're not able to get it in front of people, that sales is really, really important.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Tim. It has been really awesome having you on the show today. And
thank you for having me.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to reaching out to you personally. I'm going to do that as soon as we're done. For our listeners, thank you again for joining us. And until next time, go out and get inspired and live in your power.
Thanks, Wayne.